Today we're going to talk about the United States education system, and I'm going to give you an overview of it so you have an idea of what it's about. There's two things I want you to know before we start. The first is that education in the United States is decentralized. That means that the federal government, the national government, doesn't have control over the education in the individual states. And the reason for that is that our Constitution doesn't provide any legislation regarding education, and the 10th Amendment to the Constitution stipulates that any power not given directly to the federal government is left to the states. So that's why there's a great variance from state to state on how education goes. So what you're going to hear is what is typical throughout the country, but different states have different systems. The other thing I wanted to point out is that we have a separation of church and state in this country, which means that the federal government does not control religion. And because the public schools are federally supported, so the government supports federally or state supported, they do not include religion as part of the curriculum, so religious practice is not taught in the schools. Okay. So in 30 seconds, this is what U.S. education looks like. It starts in early childhood. So early childhood education starts maybe 2 or 3 years. Could be as early as a week or two after birth, really. But formal education usually starts around 2 or 3 years old, and that includes nursery school, preschool, daycare, and kindergarten. Then it goes to primary school, otherwise known as elementary school, which about the age of 5 or 6. Then to middle school or junior high school, and then secondary school, which is high school, at about the age of 14. High school graduation happens typically around the age of 17 or 18. And then comes junior and community colleges, vocational technical institutions, undergraduate programs, master's degrees, PhDs, and then advanced professional degrees such as medical doctorate and things like that. Now, the different stopping points that we have as we go on are where you get degrees and certificates. The most common ones are the high school diploma upon completion of high school, or the GED, the General Education Development Certificate, which is what you get if you didn't complete high school at the high school and you finish it later on, or do it through distance learning, something like that. You can get an associate's degree, which is a 2-year degree, a bachelor's degree, which is a 4 years, master's degree, a doctorate, and again those professional degrees. And each of those have a graduation ceremony. So those are basically rites of passage. Let's start with early childhood education. As I said, the formal education starts at about 2 or 3 years old, but it could start sooner than that. The first one is daycare, which is primarily child care for parents who need to work or who need a break from the kids for a certain part throughout the day. And it includes, it could be just taking care of the child, but very often these days it includes a lot of educational play and games. They learn their alphabet, count, things like that. But the primary focus for daycare is, of course, taking care of the child. Then we have preschool and nursery school. Nursery school, the name indicates that it's mostly to take care of the child. But again, these days it includes a lot more educational games. And preschool is, of course, to prepare the child to enter kindergarten or first grade. But these days, these names are interchangeable. If you really want to know if the program will help prepare your child for school, you should talk with the administrators of those programs. The other things we have for an early childhood education are a program called Head Start, which is a program funded by the government that is targeted for low-income families. And it includes education, preparation for school, health education, nutrition education, and it includes the whole family. The other thing that we have is kindergarten. Now, kindergarten throughout the country is offered free in most places. So it's usually included in elementary and secondary education. You might hear the term K through 12. The K is, of course, for kindergarten. It's offered free, but in some places it's not mandatory, so it's not required. But you should check with the local area. In Washington State, admission to kindergarten, the child has to be age 5 by August 31st. There are some areas that might have an early entry policy, so you should check with that. First grade, kindergarten is actually not required to enter first grade. However, the vast majority of children do go through kindergarten. It is education provided free by the government. So then the requirement for first grade is age 6 by August 31st. And there are exceptions to that age requirement. So if the child has completed kindergarten before the age of 6, then they can enter that way. But again, you should check with your local area and your local school to find out how those kids are entered. If you're interested in determining if your child is school ready, there's a website that you might be interested in put together by the state of Washington, and that is called gettingschoolready.org. So gettingschoolready.org. Okay, let's move on.